so excited to be here. We're here. We made it. Hello. 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 It is Masterclass number 2 of the series. Oof, we are so made to thrive. And we're going to dive into so much of the science today. I'm so excited. Oh, good to see you, Kelly. Mwah, mwah. I see Amanda's tuned in. Annie, Terry, I love you all so much. I'm so glad you're here. What do we have in store today? So much goodness. We're going to tap into a lot of the science because I know our brains love the science. It just puts everything in a context where we realize how valuable it is. We realize what's really happening. We start having another layer, I think, of understanding ourselves. And this unleashes so much compassion, right? Like, I think the purpose of the science is it also helps settle down that part of the brain that likes to tell us that this is just the way it is, that this is just the way it ought to be, that this is just the way it is, this is the way everybody else lives. And so this is actually just the way that it is. One of my sincere intentions for all of us in this time that we have together is that we realize that that's all actually optional. Okay. We'll miss you when you leave, Kelly. Catch the replay. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for popping on. First, before we dive in to all of this stuff, could I hear a little bit from you about what your thoughts have been since we started Made to Thrive? I'm curious if thriving means something different to you now than it did before you started this program. I'm curious to know if you're loving the Telegram feed and if you're loving the masterclasses. Because this is really my goal going forward, is to figure out ways that people are experiencing transformation, right? Everything that I'm doing right now also is a little bit of experimentation. What do people like? Do people like having a daily touch point for a few weeks where we can anchor in to, like, gosh, the thrive vibe, right? Like, what is it to really thrive in everyday life? And can I have a touch point that helps me anchor into that thrive vibe and even amplify it in my own life? This is my hope for all of us. I know what impact it's having on me. I'm so glad we're doing this, by the way. And I'm so curious if it's helpful to you, if you're enjoying it. I know even on this journey, as the one leading it, right? Like, I am really grateful to have an invitation on a daily basis to get curious about what thriving looks like today. And every day is different. What thriving looks like tomorrow might be different than what it looks like today. And it depends, right? Like, these things are not static. They're adaptive and they're evolving and they're shape-shifting with the way that life kind of shape-shifts and flows and moves. And our goal at the end of all of this is to be able to meet life resourced with a new, maybe fresh perspective, a set of tools that allow us to meet life with maybe a fresh self, with the best of what's within us. And there's so much good within you. There's so much good within us. And we're going to dive into a little bit today how the stress kind of affects our ability to live that way. We talked a lot about the science in our last session, for sure. I know that we did. We talked about mirror neurons and nervous system attunement and entrainment, and how the nervous system itself becomes almost calibrated to a certain amount of stress. And then the nervous system is sort of just always seeking that because that's the baseline. And how freeing it is to have that level of understanding where we're like, oh my gosh, okay, like that's like given the givens, right? We can have this new level of compassion for ourselves, and then we have tools that we get to use. Heart brain coherence truly becomes the superpower that none of us knew we needed, and none of us knew that we actually had. Like, I really believe this architecture has been gifted to us for us to use in our lives. As I started understanding the science here, I was like, okay, everybody needs this. And what a gift to be able to share this information with the people who really want it. Because we know everybody needs it. Like, the world has possibly never been a more stressed place than it is right now. Right? But the people who really want this, those of us who are just committed to this ongoing growth, this ongoing evolution, we are a rare breed. And so I just want to take a moment to celebrate you because you're already a part of the world, a piece, an important piece of a world that I want to live in. And I want to sincerely thank you. Because those of us that are coming to this body of work, we're actually leaders. We're actually shifting a paradigm. We are creating a movement that liberates people. And it is so important. So I want to thank you for being here, because it doesn't just change your life, which would be enough, right? It totally would be enough. But it changes our children's lives. It changes our families. It changes our businesses. It changes our work. It changes our future. And it changes generations to come, which is just like, to see the ripple effect of this work is so incredible. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. So I am still curious. There are some really good comments here. I can't wait. One of the questions that I've posed, if you want to drop a comment, is what your experience is with the Telegram feed. If you like this daily touch point, what your experience is with the master classes, and if your definition, understanding of what it means to thrive has changed for you in the time that we've been together. I would love to hear all of your thoughts on that. Like I said before, this is an experiment. Everything here is in experimentation mode. And I want to invite all of us to meet our lives with this level of curiosity and experimentation. Like, let's just see if this works. Let's just see what happens with this. Let's see if this is effective. Let's try it. Let's try something new. Let's try something for the sake that it might be joyful and fun. Let's try something for the sake that it might just be the most loving thing to do. Let's just see how much joy and love we can bring into our lives, how much playfulness is actually available. A really fun question for me to play with, particularly at the end of the day. Another big one for me is like, how much patience do I still have left, right? Like, how much more patience can I have? How much more joy can I let in? Because, and we're going to get into the science of how this happens. Today, the science is deep. And so before we go there, I wanted to kind of anchor into your own experience. You're liking the Telegram feed, the daily reminder. Ooh, you want more actionable, tangible. You want more tangible action steps. What great feedback. Thank you. I love that. So helpful. It's so interesting because I had gotten feedback the last time I ran a Telegram channel. I got feedback that said it felt like too much homework. So this is really funny, right? Like, this is why it's so helpful for me to hear from you, because everybody has a different learning style, and everybody has a different, like, I guess, a different load on their plate, and everybody feels maybe like they learn in different ways. So this is really helpful feedback. And the masterclasses are a great resource to stay on track and dive deeper. Love it. Yes. And then here I'm seeing, yes, I do like it. Making sure I stay up with it daily. It's a good refresher while driving. Totally. My hope is that the Telegram feed becomes this thing that just becomes really easy to plug into when you're kind of living your everyday life. It's like, oh, let me pop it in here, right? On the commute, doing the dishes, doing your workout, whatever. Is there a way to interact on that? It's just the emoji drops right now. But if we like an interactive channel, I know for my ADHD brain, I've been on previous channels that were interactive and it was easy for me to lose the core of the message. So I'm playing with this idea too. And I love this. Thriving before meant more, was more to survive and put a smile on my face. Now it's true thrive and enjoy life. Oh, that is so big. Okay, great. So we are liking action steps. Maybe something small to focus on that can make big changes. Small journal prompt. Oh, y'all, we're so taking this in. We are so taking this in. This is good stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So this is so awesome because then this becomes your program, right? Like this gets to become exactly what you want it to be. And that is so what I'm here for. I love that. As you know, I've been at at understanding stress and survival and thriving for over a decade now. It's hard to like imagine that. I'm like, what? And to know that to know that I've been doing it that long and for this to be like totally a second career for me, and I was already doing like the medicine thing for a very long time. So it was like med school was 22 years ago. I'm like, whoa, how was that possible? So I've been studying humans and optimal living, like what it is to be healthy and well for a really long time. And I have never been more excited about what I'm discovering and what this means for us than I am right now. And so this is the time where we are made to thrive. And I want to dive into a little bit of why that's so important. And I want to share an example. It's an example that I had shared earlier, but because not everybody is actually, we have more than half of the people that are inside of Made to Thrive are not actually in the Telegram feed. So there's going to be people listening to this that don't know this story, but it is in the Telegram channel if you so choose to hear it there as well. And I wanted to speak to how easy it is to fall into the survival matrix. And it's oftentimes, again, back to like the mirror neurons that we have, that there's parts of the brain that are always looking at what's around us. And because we're tribal beings, because we grew up from a neuroevolutionary biological standpoint, our job was to stay part of the tribe, to survive within the tribe has been a core theme of our species' ability for us to survive to this point. And now it's really interesting because I think there's a level of consciousness that's being demanded of us that is actually asking us to evolve beyond this. And I've been doing that work for a while. I've been working on my nervous system. I rebalance it, I recalibrate it, I work on my mindset. I mean, I am a mindset coach first and foremost. I mean, that is my passion because I realize how powerful the mind is in creating our experience of reality and our choices and what happens next. And so I was a little surprised when I discovered that the nervous system is the gatekeeper. It's the nervous system that affects your brain state that then determines what thoughts and what behaviors and what actions you are capable of taking. What? That is fascinating. Doesn't like everybody needs to know this. because here I am mindsetting. And I'm wondering kind of why, like my daughter's 3 years old and we are having like full blown temper tantrums together. Like I am exasperated. I am crying with her. I'm like, I don't know how to help you. Right. And that's attunement. That's also entrainment. That when we are stressed, the nervous systems around us are stressed. Right. And so, especially the little ones, they are searching for our nervous systems to attune to, particularly their caregivers, right? And there's an unspoken bond, right, between a mother's nervous system, a father's nervous system, and their children's. It's fascinating. And so, like, we don't have to be in proximity of one another to influence one another, like that kind of fascinating stuff. And so, I have this moment a couple weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, where I am just lit. I'm just lit. Like, have you ever had one of those moods where you are just in the best mood? You just feel so on point. Like work is flowing. You know you're having a positive impact. You just feel good. You're just feeling really good, right? And then you walk into a room and you see somebody that's not in a good mood. And this is somebody you love. This is my husband, right? Who comes into the room and he's just like the frustration is just like radiating from him. Okay? Like he is just like in it. And there's that moment where I notice myself automatically, unintentionally match him, meet him there. Some call that empathy. I have a whole a whole philosophy on that. We need less empathy and we need more compassion. Compassion meaning that we understand each of us as like truly sovereign creative beings who are capable of meeting and working through and transcending anything that meets us. We have this inner architecture. We're going to talk even more about it. None of us are prisoners. None of us are victims here. I really believe that there is a higher self there is a higher self and there is a wounded self that is always sort of co-creating below our level of awareness, right? So he comes home, he's a little bit frustrated and I see myself match him. And I have this moment. Thank goodness for you in this community. I have this moment where I go, wait, I don't have to match him. I actually get to stay sovereign. I get to keep this level of joy and openness. Like I can feel myself contracting and starting to collapse my energy field to meet his. And I was like, wait, no. And I'm breathing and I'm just being with myself a minute. And I'm like, I get to hold this. I get to be this. And the kids and I are like still like laughing and playing. Like the whole vibe shifted as soon as he came in the door. And I was like, I'm just going to play with this. And would you know that by like a little bit later, the kids and I'm still being playful with them. We're still like, we've had this scavenger hunt theme that just will not stop. We're still like playing some games and I'm making dinner and all of these things. And then all of a sudden he's like tickling the kids. Like all of a sudden he has this like breakthrough moment where he realizes, wait, I'd rather join them. I'd rather be matching them than stay where I am. I didn't have to coach him, which, doesn't really go well in a marriage, I've learned. So I only coach when I'm specifically asked, right? It's a much happier home that way. But this is what's so fascinating. Because we have mirror neurons, because our nervous systems are constantly attuning to each other. And what we know now is that a very coherent nervous system is actually a coherent nervous system. Sorry, I had to think about the stats on this for a second because I was thinking the brain frequencies of the brain, and then I'm thinking the frequencies of the heart. But the heart, when we're coherent, that electromagnetic field energy is 100 times more powerful than it is when we are stressed. Right? So the ability of my nervous system's field to entrain my husband's is larger than his ability to entrain mine on a biological level. And we're going to get into some of the science. Like, I can have belief systems, right, that make him more important than me, or that make him somehow, like, we're going to get into how like belief systems and ideas and thoughts actually affect our interpretation and our perception of things on a conscious level and subconscious level in a minute here. But I knew this was happening biologically. It was really, really interesting. And obviously there was a mindset piece that I was like, wait, I don't have to, like, the mindset shift was like, wait, I don't have to match him. The mindset shift is I get to keep my joy. It doesn't mean that he doesn't get to keep his frustration if that's what he wants to keep. Everybody gets to keep what they want to keep. But I don't have to surrender mine. That's my wish for all of us. And so let me try to share my screen. I have just a few slides that I want to share. And as we get into this, we are going to end with a coherence practice, because I think that that's really helpful for us to like leave here connected to a really coherent heart and a strong energy field. And my goals for today, our goals for today, are really to look at the neuroscience and the biology that's behind these patterns that kind of keep us stuck, and to discover ways that we get to break free on a daily basis, and how we get to like realign with ourselves, to have more clarity, to have more confidence, to actually live with authentic excellence. And I want us at the end, we're going to activate this ability to thrive in a state of flow, even when life is hard, overwhelming, or challenging. Okay. So let's briefly discuss some of the science that, just because pictures can be worth 1,000 words. So I want to review with you the 500 tabs that I have open. So here, made to thrive. It's thrive time. I'm so happy we're here. What we're going to review today is I'm going to make it brief. I'm going to try to keep the science really simple so that we're actually just enjoying it and it feels like a nice immersion into the science, but that it's not overwhelming. Okay. So we're going to talk about know thyself, origins of stress, stress effects. We're going to just review nervous system attunement, and then we're going to just kind of review a little bit of the survival matrix and how we can transcend it, mostly with heart-brain coherence, because that is what I am in love with. So know thyself. I wanted us to have a moment where we realize what's really going on here. We have been given an incredible power that no other species has. And this is twofold, right? This is to consciously direct our mind. And this is to actually take conscious control of our nervous system. This is fascinating. The only species to have a prefrontal cortex, the only species to have a heart brain, to have these 40,000 neurons that surround our heart. And so from a evolutionary perspective, and there's some really interesting research that speaks to the fact that humans actually aren't part of this evolutionary change, that there was something fundamental that happened at the level of the second chromosome. If you're interested, some of the work by Greg Braden is really fascinating on this, that there have been significant shifts in the genome of Homo sapiens that basically took us out of this evolutionary chain. But we exist. So clearly we've been created on purpose for a purpose. And so also, right? So we've got this innate ability, the sacred inner architecture that we get to leverage to live the way that we want to live. And we get to direct our minds in a way that we're just learning to understand, but that clearly makes us it has allowed us to extricate ourselves from the food chain. It is the seed of innovation. It is the seed of progress, and it will be the seed of our ongoing evolution as a species that thrives. One of the things that's really helpful for us to appreciate and understand is just like a tiny bit of quantum physics. And I often play with the idea of like going deep into this because it is so fascinating, but I will just touch on a few key things that are really helpful. First of all, 99.99999% of all matter is actually empty space. Your physical body, the chair you're sitting on, the phone you're using, the computer, like everything that you think is solid is actually empty space. If we took all of the actual physical matter that exists on the planet and we shrunk it down, we removed all of the empty space, it would actually be slightly larger than a 1 centimeter cube of sugar. What? What are we talking about here? Okay. The majority of all of life is space, is field, a field of conscious energy that holds everything in perfect proximity to one another to create electromagnetic field energy and electrostatic forces. So what we actually feel as solid is simply a manifestation of an electrostatic force. Fascinating. Our minds can't really even wrap our heads. It's so hard to wrap our heads around like what this actually is saying. And then we match this with an understanding of how there's this observer effect, how just a person watching how particles being shot through a detector, the double slit experiment, you might be familiar with it, and how sometimes they act as particles and sometimes they act as waves. And it was dependent on this observer effect. If there was something measuring it, it collapsed the particle from, it collapsed the subatomic particle into a particle rather than a wave. Isn't this fascinating? What we now know is everything exists in a field of possibility until it is observed. And so we forget, or maybe we never knew, that our observation of something, our expectation of something becomes a future observation. And so when I talk, if you've never heard the podcast of mine, Dr. Tami Talks podcast on casting consciousness, it is a goodie. And this is what I mean. We cast a vision. We cast a vision for ourselves and for others that allows, that sees everybody living to their highest and best potential, thriving in every sense of the word, and more, and overflow, and more, and overflow, and abundance, and greatness, and all of it. This is the thing I give to every single one of my clients. Like, refuse to think anything less, right? And my invitation to you is that we make this choice because we are literally collapsing waveforms and creating the future with our minds. That's how powerful you are. That's not what this is about, but it is so imperative that you have that level of understanding before we even dive into this, because otherwise we get lost in the science and we kind of get lost in the stress loops and the biology and all of this, and we lose the larger context, which is that you and your focus and your attention and your energy are exquisitely creative. Okay, so we know thyself. So let's talk a little bit about the nervous system. I had to break this up because I couldn't get it to fit all the way on one slide. But what was really helpful here, we talked a little bit about this last week, but there's this incredible nervous system, right? It's the brain, it's the spinal cord, and look at all of these peripheral nerves. No cell of the body is outside of the reach of the nervous system. It is the mind body connection in real time, right? And it's bi-directional. The communication between the entire nervous system and the brain is bi-directional. 80% of that communication is going back and forth, which was not in the textbooks in medical school 22 years ago. The understanding at that time, the pervasive taught understanding, because I am learning so much, what physicians were being taught at that time and what they're still being taught is that the brain is the command center and that information is flowing from the brain down into the body. And without this understanding of biofeedback systems and how intricate they really are, we miss a huge piece of what it is to be sovereign and what it is to truly take our power back, the power that's within us, and use it to our advantage. We spoke a little bit also about this natural attunement. So this is sort of an interesting diagram. Here it's saying the environment. This is what we're taking in through our senses, particularly through our sensory organs. And that's meeting the brain. And that's leading to a certain level of attunement in terms of brainwave state and sensory state. So what is helpful to understand here is that it's the environment. This was the entire field of epigenetics that helps us understand that it's the external environment that has such a huge influence on our internal state. And that's half the story. When we don't know how to take our power back, we live essentially being driven by our external environment. And the more stressful that becomes, the more vulnerable we become. And I don't know about you, but I did not sign up for that. I did not sign up to be in a perpetual state of vulnerability and victimhood, right? Not happening. And so what this is showing you on the other side is that, so sensory gamma, that's looking at what is being sensed from the body. So quite literally, when we're experiencing or witnessing stress around us, it amplifies our sense of discomfort, tension, pain. It's really interesting. And it also affects our brainwave state, depending on the amount of stress that we're experiencing around us when we're not aware of it, right? When this is just the way that it is. This is a little fuzzy, but I wanted to share this picture because this helps us understand this input a little bit more. All sensory input is coming in through something called the reticular activating system. That's this whole segment right here, is the reticular activating system. The input from your eyes goes directly there. The input from your ears goes directly there. This arrow at the bottom is all of our sensory input, tactile input. It's actually going through the reticular activating system. This is actually super important to the function of the brain. So whatever is coming in has to be filtered because there's approximately 11 million bytes of information that are coming to us every second of the day. And if you start, and these studies were done before we had an understanding of like social media and the scrolling effect and the amount, like this 24/7 news cycle thing that we're now a part of culturally. So I don't know how much higher that number actually is, but I'm guessing it is so much higher. The brain itself, the cortex, which is the squiggly matter around the outside of the brain that you're seeing here, can process 40 to 50 bytes of information. The reticular activating system right here, sorry, I somehow lost my mouse, but this will work. The reticular activating system here is filtering, is going from 11 million bytes of information and sending 40 to 50 bytes of information to the brain. The majority of information, I mean, this is like, if you do this is like 99.9999999. I mean, it's like 9 Repetan, right? The majority of reality is filtered out and not available to us. Okay. Really, really interesting. So helpful for us to know. What's in the reticular activating system? It's your beliefs, it's the programming, it's the ideas that you entertain, it's even emotional set points. We're going to get into that a little bit too. Like, so all of these things, your ideas, your stories, your identities, those are all determining what you experience. Your perception is not pure. That phrase, it's so cliche, and now for good reason, I understand this, but there's this cliche that's like, you see the world not as it is, but as you are. And this is the science behind the validity and the deep truth of that statement. So we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Just to orient ourselves a little bit, here is where you're going to find right back in here is where you're going to find the reptilian brain. And this is what we were talking about last week. And up here is where you're going to find the prefrontal cortex. That's this region. We were talking about how stress keeps us tethered here, right? And determines what programs are now active here. So interesting. As we start moving our metabolic activity here, so we start living here more and more, it starts shaping so the reticular activating system is responding to these brain regions as it's the determiner of what information comes through. Is this not some really exquisite design? It's fascinating. This is just so this is a review of what we just talked about. So this is the functional MRI image. The functional MRI is the study of metabolic activity. Where is the brain most active, or it's showing activity. And so here you're seeing in a non-stressed brain, there's a little bit of activity here and here, right? Because that's required. The cerebellum, like this is managing gait, gross motor function, and etc. Like it's required that there's some brain activity here. But when we're stressed, you'll notice here on the far right how lit up these regions are on the inside. How intensely, right? And so here's your reticular. Do you see this part right here? This is your reticular activating system, right at the stem, determining here what you perceive. Isn't that interesting? So fascinating. So what it kind of also means is that when we're in a stress state, it's almost like we just perceive through that, and everything that we experience kind of amplifies that stress, right? You've had that moment, right, where like if you have something stressful happen, it just sort of like affects you for the whole day. I love that that gets to be optional. Why I think this is helpful. I've even had some moments with clients where they're they understand that they have psychological stressors, right? Like they are fully aware of the stress that's at work, the stress in their home, the stress in some of their relationships. Like that is clear. And when they start using these skills, they they can get so good at like managing those dynamics, and then they have a moment where they fall ill, where they're sick, and and then we have this other moment where we're like, oh my gosh, psychological stressors and physical stressors meet at the same place. They're meeting in the brain and the nervous system. It doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter the source of our stress when we understand that we have a system in place, that we have a set of tools that allows us to actually process that stress in real time and work with it and shift. Sometimes stress is meant to be experienced. Stress is good. I'm not like, stress is not bad. Chronic, excessive levels of stress lead to what is called adaptation. And that adaptation means that chronic stress has an endpoint that leads to biological and behavioral changes. And this is where we want to get really compassionate and curious with ourselves. Like when we understand the biology, the biological changes are massive. Here it's talking about all of the specific receptor. I tried to find the simplest diagram I could because y'all can probably appreciate how like every single one of these is its own very complex feedback loop. The entire body is designed on feedback loops. Feedback loops on feedback loops on feedback loops. Biofeedback loops, I am learning, is the game of life. When we start understanding this biofeedback system, which I love to dive into inside of Stress Mastery Academy, we're playing with renaming it Neuroalignment Mastery. When we start to like really understand what's happening here, and there's another thing that's really important here: altered cellular machinery, genomic effects, epigenetic programming. Fascinating. Affects cellular excitability, neuronal plasticity, and synaptic plasticity. Alters how the brain works. What we now know, and then you look over here: energy mobilization, metabolic changes, immune system, digestion, reproductive shutdown. Oh, such a beautiful thing. I recently had a one-on-one client who has had a very difficult time conceiving. She just, and I was like in tears, like she's pregnant and she has like this healthy little being growing inside of her. And that is like one of the beautiful thing, like the whole body responds positively when we are able to process stress and really build this internal resiliency, right? And we're able to, which is so beautiful. The physiological and behavioral changes are profound. I'm like looking for the right words because when you've experienced it, there's no language to describe them. And if you haven't experienced them, you're probably not here, right? The physiological changes, we felt that. We have felt it, right? Like we're maybe not metabolizing well. We have low energy. We just don't feel good. We're tired all the time. We're starting to get concerned for our health just in general. We are somewhat excitable. We're wondering why we're so stressed all the time now. Like maybe small things set us off, right? We have moved our set point. And that means that it takes less of a stressor for us to activate a stress response, right? Because now we're sensitive. It's like we're trigger happy, right? The nervous system itself is easily excitable. And it starts changing the way the brain works and what it's accessing. And it keeps us rooted in old patterns that make it very difficult to change out of. And that can change our mood. And over time, that changes our personality. And as you already knew from that slide on the reticular activating system, your personality is actually what frames your personal reality. And this is what scientists call adaptation, which truly should actually be the greatest pathology. I want to say adaptation is our ability to reverse all of this. That's more adaptive. This would be maladaptive. It blows my mind that the medical community has basically pathologized everything that's normal about humans and normalized everything that's the actual pathology. And this is what keeps us sick. This is what keeps us unwell in mind, body, truly, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? Human potential is unlocked when we reverse this. And so heart-brain coherence becomes your superpower. Because as we spoke about a little bit last week, your heart has the ability with these little 40,000 neurons to rebalance and reset that entire maladaptive cascade. Alter brainwave states, alter the way your brain functions, optimize your human capacity for energy, vitality, alter your ability to become more self-directed, shift your state so that you become more aligned with your highest self and you actually make conscious choices from that place. This is incredible. This is incredible. And you can transcend the survival matrix no matter what is happening around you. No matter what is happening around you. And next week, we're going to get into so much of the other science on this. I'm curious if you can drop in the chat, what spoke to you about all of that? Was that helpful? Is the science landing? Is there something you have a question about? Is this feeling a little familiar? Do you kind of like understand yourself a little bit more? Does it help things, I don't know, make sense? I'm curious. Tell me. I'm going to keep coming back to the chat. Before we wrap, I want us to get coherent. You want to get coherent with me? I want you to think about how this is landing for you. drop me a DM, drop a comment. I love hearing from you. Love, love, love. I think that is one of the drawbacks of the current Telegram channel is I don't get that immediate feedback other than the emojis. So please drop your emojis. Um, and because I want everything to serve you so big, when it does, let me know. Okay. So, what I wanted us to do right now was just do a little breathing practice. Mm, yes. So, if you're in a position where you're able to just kind of like sit back, roll the shoulders back, maybe put a hand on your heart. I like to use my left hand. Put a hand on your heart, rest your eyes closed, and let's just like kind of roll the day off. We're midday. I don't know, maybe you're late in the day. It depends. Or maybe you're early in the day. I don't We all have different schedules, don't we? I just need to roll my neck a minute. Okay. Ah, that feels good. Okay. Move in whatever way you need to move. And then let's just start to breathe. Let's bring our attention to our heart and take slow, steady breaths in and blow it out. And let's just take a couple cycles of breath where we're breathing real deep, real full, expand the belly. And exhale all the way, pulling in on the abdomen, pulling up on the diaphragm. Really empty those lungs all the way out, releasing everything. And breathing in. Beautiful oxygen, nutrients for every cell of this body, for this temple that is you. Fill your lungs, fill your chest, and release. And just notice how good it feels to be breathing here. I want you to do that on your own. I want you to be breathing in slow and steady and strong for a count of 5. And I want your exhale to be slow and steady and strong. And my invitation to you is that you go for at least a count of 5, but you could go 6, 7, 8 if that feels good to you. The more we exhale, the more we invite the parasympathetic nervous system to come on board. And we've been given 2 stems of this nervous system for a reason. How amazing that we get to intentionally activate the parasympathetic nervous system and just optimize the health of this body, of the sacred vehicle of our lives, of your life. Breathing in, breathing out. And you can breathe out with an open mouth, a closed mouth, truly whatever feels good and nourishing to you. And as we're sitting here breathing, I want to invite us to just connect to how magnificent this human body is. How divinely designed for you. Again, your hand is on your heart. You're resting your attention here. You're breathing slow, steady, strong. I'm just going to share some messages with you about the gift of this body and the gift of this life. and the divine creator that we are. Because the science is so undeniable that we are made to thrive in everyday life. And that as we do a practice like this, the statistics indicate that this stabilizes the nervous system for 8 whole hours. What a gift. What a gift. Optimizing the way you see the world, optimizing the way you live in this world, optimizing the choices that you have access to and you get to make. Breathing. Really appreciating this gift because we did not create this. We have been given this. We have been given this. And this is what allows us to truly be conscious creators in our lives. Mm. And what a gift to be united with a field that is always responsive, always supportive, and always most responsive to what's in our highest good. When our electromagnetic field energy is strongest is when we have the strongest influence on the field that is always responsive. What a gift. This is us breaking set points, us breaking free of the biochemical reactions that keep us tethered to stress. This is freedom. This is the ultimate liberation. This is transcending the survival matrix. This is entering the field where you thrive, where I thrive, where we thrive. Breathing in, breathing out. And I want us to set an intention while you're here that the body remembers this, that you remember this. And that your gift and your intention, maybe your wish, is that you start letting this become more familiar. And what we're now really committing to, it's like, yes, it's commitment, but it is devotion. It's devotion over discipline, unless, we have moments where discipline works. Like sometimes we have to be disciplined, but really what we might need is a new level of devotion to ourselves, to these practices, to the future we want to live and build, to the family we want to lead and love, to ourselves that we're always creating in every moment. What a gift. I'm going to invite you to open your eyes, to come back to the room whenever you're ready. You can keep breathing. I'm going to keep talking a little bit about like what this sacred gift really is and what a gift it is to be here with you, sharing this space. Because what ends up happening is it's practices like this. When we do this on a regular basis, we shift our baseline. The biochemicals of stress are the ones that are creating our emotional tone. The reason why we have stressful emotions is because we don't have practices like this that actually dismantle the loop. The stress loop is a mind-body loop. And so the biochemical state in the body is feeding information back to the brain, signaling like we're supposed to be stressed. The brain is finding new stressful thoughts. That's leading to a flood of biochemicals, right? That are released through the hypothalamus, right? So there's a whole feedback loop that's constantly, until we do something like this, where we interrupt it. And then we start applying this on a daily basis to dismantle the little loops that run our everyday life. This is what is inside Stress Mastery Academy. Are we calling it Stress Mastery Academy 2.0? Or do we like neuro alignment mastery? I don't know. I'm feeling like we stick with Stress Mastery Academy and then we rename it for the medical branch of, anyways, there's a story there. Maybe I'll share it on Telegram. Hop into Telegram to get the full scoop, because I know we don't have much time left here. And I want you to know that next week there will be an invitation for you to explore what it would look like working with me, either in the mastermind, which is a year-long container, or with me as a VIP one-on-one client, which is also a year container. I'm actually not even going to talk about that. If you really want something like that, you should just reach out to me directly, because I'm really just going to talk about the mastermind next week. And I'm going to talk about why it's so valuable. And truly, when you start doing this work, you might already experience it, but like a year is just scratching the surface, because we're talking about a buildup now. It's like, how old are you? Right? This has been building for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. You tell me, right? And if we think we're dismantling this, rebalancing, recalibrating, repatterning your entire mind and body, it's going to take us a year. Some of us, it takes a lifetime to get us as optimized as we want to be, right? I've been doing this work now for 4 years, and I've never been more obsessed with it than I am now, because the wins just keep stacking. When you start getting really, like the benefits of this and what becomes possible as you keep expanding your nervous system's ability to not just lead your life, but then to start to receive. Like we sometimes don't realize that it's our nervous system's tightness that prevents us from actually receiving the abundance, the love, and the joy, and everything that's like trying to make its way to us, right? This is such an incredible journey. This is such an incredible process. You have tools, right? You have this, you can re-listen to this. There is a little podcast that you can listen to on heart-brain coherence that also really anchors into even more of the science, the shifts, I should say, that you get to benefit from when you are in heart-brain coherence. So let me hear from you. I love, love, love hearing from you. Let me know your experience, what you love, what you don't love. If you are thinking that you do want to go like deep one-on-one with me, you are totally invited to reach out to me and have a conversation about what that could look like, or we'll email a little bit. There's a form, there's an app, there's a whole application process for that, but you'll know if it's for you. You'll know, you'll feel it. And I trust you. I do. I trust that when you feel the nudge, when you feel the pull, that it's meant for you. So I absolutely love you. Have the best day. Next week. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick. I'm going to take less than 5 minutes, because I wanted to tie this back to the daily life theme. And so one of the things that this getting coherent on a regular basis, right? Doing it on the daily, doing it twice a day, it alters your nervous system state at a baseline. It alters how your brain state, it alters how you perceive reality. It alters how you proceed in life, the decisions you get to make, how you get to show up. It actually starts processing emotions in real time through the brain, through the nervous system, through the brain. It's just fascinating what becomes possible here. So, not just regular practice on the daily alters your nervous system state, but there's also a process that we learn later on inside the mastermind and the group that allows you to live everyday life and let everyday life become the feedback that you then have this quick coherence practice where you're able to really quickly on command. It's like you strengthen this inner architecture, you strengthen your heart brain, so that then on demand, when life is lifing and you're having this moment where you're like, you just like, you're in it, this is overwhelming, this is chaos, this is it, this is a lot, or you find yourself feeling angry or frustrated, disappointment, exhausted. That's a big one for me. You can resource yourself in under a minute. Oh, activate heart brain coherence. And now you have the ability to live from your highest self, from the resilience of your heart, from an optimized brain, an optimized nervous system, an optimized state. Oh, so good. So good. And so everyday life, like, yes. And there's so many ways to apply this work that allow us to show up the way that we want to. And I want that for all of us, because we can and we get to. And what a privilege and an honor that no generation before us has ever had. Beautiful. I will catch you in the VIP Q&A if you filled out your form. I will see you soon. Bye.